But when you come to a country with a huge spectrum of people of all kinds of income levels, education, situations, familiar, everything, you can't just expect everybody to not trust the government.
But you can have, this is why you have local authorities, and this is why basically Seattle and Washington now are shutting things down after they already have hundreds of cases and an outbreak. That's not when you act.
But it's the same thing with the sporting events. I mean,
yes, and
it was very clear.
Shut them down.
If they're saying, okay, on the one hand, when this thing started being news about 3-4 weeks ago, like real news, they said, okay, wash your hands, avoid contact, stay with about 2 meters or 6 feet or something from the person next to you, try to not to touch your face, all that typical stuff, which, by the way, that's normal stuff all the time. I mean, if I need to be reminded to wash my hands. I mean, normally, hopefully you do that on a regular basis, but now even more thoroughly and sanitize and all that stuff, that's fine. But if they need to also tell you, okay, well, yeah, if you are going to be in touch, if you're going to be close to people like to 6 feet or something, well, my common sense tells me, okay, well, if I'm going to be in a stadium with a next guy next to me that I don't know where he comes from or he's done, he's spitting and yelling and shouting and all that stuff, I'm going to be sitting 3 hours next to him and another one in front, another one behind, another one this, the other guy behind me is coughing or whatever. Or you go to a movie theater, or there's a lot of places where they could have taken that resolution much faster. If they're telling you what, now they started saying, okay, avoid gatherings of 10,000 people. Then it became 5,000. Then it's 1,000. Now they say 250. It doesn't fucking matter if it's 250. You could be with 10 people. If you are this close to them and lined up, there is a risk right there. So I think there's a lot of misinformation about this. And then I was the first one guilty, and I admit it, comparing it to the flu or whatever. You can compare it to the flu. Now, in retrospect, you can compare it to the flu as far as how it's not like the flu, basically. Like comparing it to say it differs from the flu because the flu is more of like a linear disease. It comes every year. We have a vaccination for it. We know more or less the strings. We know what it's going to do. It's a known issue. It is a known factor, and you can anticipate and prevent. And that's why people, even though they die of the flu, it's different.
This is what I was saying weeks ago. And I'll reiterate it, because the flu is a known unknown. We don't know how many people are going to get it. You don't know who has it around you. But we know what the death rate of the flu is. We know how to treat the flu. We have a lot of experience.
Yes.
With coronavirus, it's an unknown. We don't know how deadly it is. We don't know how fast it spreads. We don't know how many people have it even. I mean, you really think there's only 1,300 people in the U.S. with it? I think that's so
no. That's basically
wrong.
No. Well, that's what I like. That is confirmed, but it's true that
unconfirmed.
Because, like you said, we know it's also that's another factor of this type of virus is asymptomatic.
Yes,
meaning you may have no symptoms or normal symptoms that you think is it's just a sniffle or it's just a little cough or something, and you say it's normal. I have this every year, or it's allergies or whatever. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's something else, and you don't even go. Even if you want to be tested, you can't. Even if you go to a doctor, in some cases, the doctor says, okay,
yes,
it's this and that.
That's another thing.
That's the problem.
They were mandating, you don't get tested until you have symptoms. It's too fucking late by the time you have symptoms, because then you've already spread it to a bunch of people. Literally, look at what happened with Rudy Gobert just yesterday. He doesn't have any symptoms. And then today, he was actually ruled out with illness yesterday. And early in the day, but it was just illness. They didn't specify. They were getting the test. They finally were able to test him, and then boom, he has it. But days ago, he didn't have it. And I guarantee you that we're going to see a lot more NBA players have it that had no idea they have it because they're all getting tested now. And this is what I'm saying.
Well, there's few things that we know. And obviously, we're still again, neither of David or I are virologists or medical professional or anything, but
at this point, you don't have to be. At this point,
well, you have to study.
You don't have to be a virologist or an MD to look at a fucking chart like that and a map and say, this map was only China a month ago, and now the whole world is red. So it doesn't take a genius to look at that.
It shows you the big blob that we had in China. And there was a couple of small little dots in Europe. Now, Europe is not a big blob. Obviously, you have Iran and all that section there. And then, obviously, the U.S. starting to increase because it's a huge country. And we have different nucleus in New York. And obviously, we know Washington and all that. So, but the things that we know, and by now, I personally have read so much about this from different sources, different doctors, different experts, other podcasts from people that I trust, other podcasts from people that I trust have interviewed people that they trust and all that. And so the things that we do know is that, like you said, is that respiratory disease. So it affects your lungs. How much it affects?
Well, the other thing that it does affect, not everybody, but a lot of people, is your heart.
Right.
And a lot of young people are having heart attacks and dying from it.
That's when it starts getting to different phases. But first of all, it's a respiratory disease. You get it when somebody, through somebody sneezes near you, is up in the air, droplets, whatever, you breathe them, you get them in your fingers or in your hands, you touch your face and all that. So that's why it's so critical that people wash their hands 20 seconds at least, thoroughly. There's tons of graphics out there on how to wash your hands properly and all that stuff. Then you use hand sanitizer, all that stuff. And then especially don't touch your face, your eyes, and things like that. But aside from that, we know it also affects, because it's respiratory disease, affects people with certain conditions. Like even people that are smokers, they have already weakened lungs. I mean, they should know that if they don't read the packets that say that the Surgeon General says that it's going to kill you. Well, now it actually may kill you. It affects people that even if they don't smoke now, they may have smoked in the past. So obviously they have the damage already done. It also affects people with diabetes. It affects people with high blood pressure, heart issues, things like that. And also, usually as a consequence of that, or correlation, usually affects older people more than younger people, with exceptions, of course. But older people are more prone to having all the situations that I just mentioned. So we know that people that are over 70 years old are more at risk than people that are younger. And it also depends on your lung capacity. Obviously, when you're an athlete or something, even though we have exceptions too. I'm not talking about the case of getting the disease. I'm talking about survival rate. Okay, so let's put something also clear, that just because you get it or you have it, it's not a death sentence. Obviously, we have a lot of people that are recovered, and the actual death rate, as we know, and we discussed this before, could be even lower than what we know, because there's a lot of people that are not being reported as confirmed, that are not confirmed yet or not dead. So usually the death rate, when you increase the numerator, is going to decrease. But regardless of that, the people that are more at risk of being in a more grave situation are the ones that we just described. And that's basically a common knowledge or common agreement between all the experts that we've researched. Aside from that, we know very little more. I mean, we know a little bit of how it gets into you, a little bit of how it acts. Obviously, there's no vaccine for it yet, but there's little known, and that's what makes this more dangerous. So we also know that it spreads very fast, faster than H1N1s and many other diseases or pandemics or viral diseases that we've known for the last 15, 20 years. So, yeah, I mean, people need to be careful. They cannot just ignore it. They need to be cautious about it. And
yeah, but the problem is that now it's kind of too late. It's never too late. Acting now is better than not acting, but it's late. It's late because now we have 1,300 cases, and we'll have 2,000 cases in another day from now, and we'll have 10,000 cases in a week from now.
Well,
and
we can decrease.
Late. When we had our podcast, if you remember, 2 weeks ago, or we had our discussion, which I was right, but that's okay. There were like 20 cases in the U.S.
Or 30, 40 or something, okay, including the cruise ship.
Including the cruise ship. And I was saying, we need to shut borders down. We need to take action now. We need to stop all these events. No one listened. People ignored it, went about their day. Even this is like so moronic. I mean, there were, I don't know if you saw this, but lots of universities started closing classes, and Columbia University, which is an Ivy League school, supposed to have a lot of the intelligentsia at Columbia, really bright minds there. Actually, I think they're a pretty good medical school too, by the way. So they canceled classes, and everybody's hanging out in the courtyard. There's thousands of people out and about in the court, not isolating.
Well, but that we've seen.
Do you not get it? This is why you
listen. I'm a big.
And these are supposed to be the smart people, quote unquote smart.
Well, I know, but